Hi there, the name's Nico, and today I will be covering the next 6 characters in Eternal Return Black Survival's food routes. These 6 characters are Hyunwoo, Hart, Isol, Li Dailin, Yuki, and Hyejin. I'll also be covering Spell Amp Dual Sword Jackie's route, since I said I would add that to this video in the first part. If you didn't watch the first part of the series, feel free to check it out. It will be part of a playlist as well. If you want more of these guides, please leave a like on this video. It lets me know if these guides are helpful or not. A quick note, all builds can make hamburgers by killing animals that drop meat, which include chickens, boars, wolves, and bears. If there are not many good food options on your path, make hamburgers. They provide 600 HP and are a good starting food. Just make sure to make more food later in the game. So for Spell Amp Dual Sword Jackie, the top route goes Archery, School, Avenue, Pond. So in Archery, you'll want to grab chocolate to make Choco Pies. Choco Pies have 600 HP. In School, you can make hard-boiled eggs, but you will probably be low on SP at this point, so I would use the extra water you have to make soju. You'll need 1 water for your build, so make sure to not use it to make boiling water by accident. Once you reach Avenue, you can make a bunch of butter-related food, such as chocolate chip cookies, honey butter, and pound cake if you didn't use your bread for Choco Pies. So for Hyunwoo, specifically Glove, there are 3 variations you can run: Spell Amp, Lifesteal, and Tank. For Spell Amp, an example route would be Pond, Cemetery, Hospital, Archery Range. In Pond, you can make herbal medicine with oriental herbs plus turtle shell. And then once you make it to Hospital, you make Send Vitality by making acupuncture needles. Or once you go to Cemetery, you can grab a coffee, and then in Hospital, you can make mocha bread. There is not any 600 plus HP food you can make between Pond and Cemetery that is easy to make and is not time consuming to make, so do your best to get out of Pond as fast as you can. For Lifesteal, you would want to go to Hotel, Pond, Hospital, Archery Range, and Cemetery. For this route, if you want food that has over 600 HP, you'll have to make Send Vitality, which you make by making herbal medicine in Pond, and then acupuncture needles in Hospital. In Hospital, you can also make pound cake. For Tank, you may go Dock, Uptown, Cemetery, Pond. In Dock, grab extra lighters so that you can make either curry croquettes or stir-fried ramen in Uptown. Alternatively, you can grab extra boxes to make Choco Pie boxes in Uptown once you find chocolate. You can also make hot ramen in Dock, and once you make it to Cemetery, you make garlic ramen, which is what I did. For Tonfa Hyunwoo, there are 2 builds I found. One was a tank build, and the other was a hybrid lifesteal skill amp attack speed build. For tank, the route would be School, Alley, Factory, Cemetery, and Pond. There isn't any good food you can make that is good in School, but in Alley you can make garlic ramen if you grab garlic and ramen in Alley. You can grab the lighters you need in School or Alley, and you can boil the water you start with. You can also make baked potatoes, but I wouldn't make them unless you are really ahead on your build because it takes time to gather the potatoes and rocks when you could be looting. For the hybrid build, the route is Temple, Uptown, Hospital, Pond. In Uptown you can make garlic bread. Although it is not 600 HP, it provides 500 HP and is decent food early on. Or you can save your bread for Uptown and make Choco Pies, and then make Choco Pie boxes once you make it to Pond. Or if you grab coffee in Uptown, you can make mocha bread once you go to the Hospital. Or if you grab noodles in Temple, you can save them for Hospital and make cold noodles, especially since they were buffed not that long ago and now provide 650 HP. I opted to go for garlic bread. Next is Hart. There are 2 routes you would run, depending on if you are playing ENAD or extra normal attack damage Hart, or if you're playing Spell Amp Hart. For ENAD Hart, you will go Factory, Cemetery, Chapel, Uptown, Temple, or some variation of these zones. So between Factory and Cemetery, you will make mocha bread. Mocha bread provides 700 HP and is the best food you can make between these 2 zones. You can also make curry croquettes in Factory alone by grabbing an oil, lighter, and curry powder. You can also make hard-boiled eggs in Cemetery. I chose to make mocha bread this route. For Spell Amp Hart, you could go Chapel, School, Hotel, Beach, Forest. In Chapel, you can make pound cake by grabbing milk. There is no other 600 plus HP food you can make until you get to Forest. In Forest, you can make healing potions by grabbing glass bottles in Chapel and then making orchids in Forest, or Send Vitality by grabbing alcohol in School, needles in Hotel, turtle shells and beach, and then oriental herbs and forests. So if you don't find milk in chapel, make sure to pick up some meat to make hamburgers. Next is Isol. For assault rifle Isol or AR Isol, there are 2 builds, Crit or ENAD. I believe Crit has fallen out of the meta at this time of this recording because of the AR-12 nerfs, as well as the fact that Agni is so strong, but regardless, for Crit, the route is hospital, cemetery, chapel, dock. So between dock and cemetery, you can make mocha bread by grabbing alcohol in hospital and coffee in cemetery. You can also make pound cake in hospital or chapel if you did not find coffee and or alcohol in your zones. For ENAD Isol, the routing is slightly different than AR Aya because you want to build type 95 to get early game kills and then make Agni, or you steal an Agni off a dead AR Aya or Isol. So your route is hotel, cemetery, chapel, uptown. For this route, you want to make garlic bread in cemetery or make pound cake in uptown. Making food really any later is not ideal, but you can make chocolate chip cookies or choco pie boxes once you reach uptown. I opted to make garlic bread. For Pistol Isol, there are 2 popular builds. One is a crit build, and the other is a cooldown reduction or CDR skill amp build. For the crit build, your route would be uptown, factory, chapel, alley. So between uptown and factory, you can make mocha bread by grabbing coffee in uptown and then alcohol in factory. You can also make curry croquettes in factory if you don't find coffee in uptown. You can also make choco pies in uptown. This route has a lot of good food options, so you can make food that requires lighters. If you don't know what food you can make with lighters, I would suggest checking out my Basics of Food video, which will be shown in the top right corner and is linked in the description. For the Skill Amp CDR route, the path goes hospital, pond, temple, avenue. In hospital, you can make pound cake, or you can make acupuncture needles and then make herbal medicine in pond to then make Zen Vitality. Zen Vitality is one of the highest HP foods in the game. You can also make cold noodles in temple if needed. For Li Dailin, specifically glove, there are a few builds you can run, but the 2 I'll cover are an ENAD build and an attack power Bloodwing Knuckles build. For the ENAD build, you go hospital, cemetery, chapel, archery range, avenue. So between hospital and cemetery, you should make mocha bread by grabbing alcohol in hospital and then grabbing coffee in cemetery. You can also make mocha bread in chapel if you did not find coffee or alcohol in hospital or cemetery. For the attack power Bloodwing Knuckles build, you would go forest, beach, hotel, factory. There are no blue or rare food you can make until you get to factory, but you can make herbal medicine by grabbing oriental herbs and forests, and then turtle shells and beach. You can also make burgers once you reach hotel, since boars most likely won't have spawned in forest or beach while you're there. You can also make lemon ice cream if you grab eggs in forest and then lemons in hotel. Although this food doesn't provide 600 HP, it provides 500 HP and you get 3 of that food, which is good enough early game. Once you get to factory, then you will want to grab lighters to make food that provides at least 600 HP. For nunchucks, there are 2 builds, Skill Amp and Crit. When I made this video, a new nunchuck, Cerberus, was released, so I'll use a crit build with this nunchuck. People are still testing the new nunchuck, so this build might fall out in the future, but it was the top build at the time of this recording. For Skill Amp, the route goes factory, chapel, cemetery, hospital, pond. On this route, you can make curry croquettes in factory by grabbing a lighter, oil, and curry powder. You can also make pound cake in chapel, or you can grab alcohol in factory and then make mocha bread when you go to cemetery. If cemetery is really busy at the beginning, you might not be able to find the coffee. You can also make hard-boiled eggs if you save your water and grab lighters in factory. For the crit build, you can go hospital, alley, avenue, chapel. In hospital, you can make pound cake, but I would make ice water, and once you arrive in alley, you grab ramen to make cold ramen. Cold ramen was buffed a couple patches ago and now provides 650 HP, which is great. You can also make garlic ramen in alley if you don't find ice in hospital. Other butter-related food you can make in alley include honey butter and butter fried potatoes, but early on, getting potatoes is time-consuming, so unless you are quite ahead on your build and couldn't find any other of the other foods mentioned, I would not stop to grab the potatoes. For Yuki, there are 2 weapons you can choose from, two-handed sword or dual swords. For two-handed sword, the 2 main routes would be ENAD or crit. For ENAD Yuki, the most popular route by far is alley, factory, chapel, cemetery, pond. In alley, you can make garlic bread or garlic ramen. In the first zone, I generally don't want to cook garlic ramen because it takes a long time, so I would go with garlic bread. Then in factory, you can make curry croquettes or stir-fried ramen, but you'll need 2 oils for your build, so you probably won't be able to find extra oil, since a lot of people go to factory lately. For crit Yuki, you will go cemetery, hospital, dock, beach. I feel like I have said this so many times already, but you want to make mocha bread between cemetery and hospital. You want to grab coffee in cemetery and then alcohol in hospital. Once you reach dock, you can grab lighters and make a plentiful amount of food. For dual swords Yuki, there are 2 variations, crit and skill amp. For crit dual swords, the route shown goes dock, chapel, cemetery, hospital. So unlike the other crit builds, you don't start in either hospital or cemetery, so you probably don't want to make mocha bread because you'll probably run into someone else who will attack you before you get mocha bread completed. So you'll want to make hot ramen in dock by combining boiling water and ramen, and then when you make it to cemetery, you turn it into garlic ramen, or making pound cake in chapel. You can also just make burgers until you are finished your build and have time to make it better food. For skill amp, your route might be temple, alley, school, forest. Here you'll either want to make garlic bread or garlic ramen, but you'll need 2 lighters for your build, so you'll probably just want to make garlic bread unless you find an excess of lighters in alley. There are also lighters in school, which you can then make better food such as hard-boiled eggs once you reach forest. And finally, Hyejin. Hyejin has 2 weapon types, bow and shuriken. For bow, there's only one main route which goes archery range, alley, forest, avenue. You might swap the zone orders, but it'll be the same 4 zones regardless. You might also want to make white crane fan as the accessory instead of Gojin, but it'll be the same zones regardless. So in archery range, you'll want to make choco pies. Once you reach alley, you can make stir-fried ramen or hard-boiled eggs, or you can make hard-boiled eggs once you reach forest if you grab lighters in alley. You can make baked potatoes or french fries, but most likely it'll take too long to grab the potatoes when other people are looting your items. For shuriken, which isn't really used as much as bow, you can do a mystic jade charm route that is similar to Sahir. This route is avenue, alley, temple, pond. Again, you may switch the order of these zones, but it'll be the same zones regardless. In avenue, you can make butter-related food, such as pound cake, honey butter, or chocolate chip cookies. You can also make choco pies, which then can be turned into choco pie boxes once you reach pond if you don't need to use your food. You can also make garlic ramen or stir-fried ramen once you reach alley by grabbing oil in avenue and then finding ramen in alley. You can use the water you have and boil it to make garlic ramen, as well as hot honey water if you need SP food. In the next video, I will be covering the next 6 characters in Eternal Return Black Survival, which includes Shukai, Kiara, Cicella, Sylvia, Adriana, and Shoichi. If you like these types of videos, please leave a like on this video. If you missed the first part of this series, feel free to check it out on the right side. If some of the food mentioned in this video didn't make sense to you or you want to hone in on your food knowledge, feel free to check out my Basics of Food video on the left. I also stream 4 times a week on Twitch, and I can answer any other questions you might have there. I hope to see you there.